Hi, this is Shawn Abrams with Leading in the First Person. Before we jump into relationships, let's see who impacted the leaderboard this week. It's Pastor James Barnett. Pastor Barnett has over 30 years in ministry. He spent much of that time visiting and ministering to prisoners on Rikers Island. He also serves as director of an after-school program in Brooklyn, where he has oversight of the activities of 100 students. In addition to all that, he also carries 4 black belts. 2 4th degree, 1 5th degree, and 1 8th degree. This is someone who not only leads and disciplines himself, but he does the same thing for those that he serves through his ministry. If you want to send Pastor Barnett a congratulatory email, or you just want to connect with him, you can reach him at allinhishands@aol.com. Today's topic, establishing and maintaining great relationships. Now this is the second video in the series, and if you saw the first video, you would see that this time I'm more relaxed. Well, this time I'm sitting instead of standing. Somehow standing made me a nervous wreck. I'm now used to the lights, I'm used to the camera, and I have the experience of producing a video. The jazzy tune that you hear at the beginning of the video was composed by a musician from the UK. At the time that I spoke to him, I told him that I'm looking for something that kind of reflects my feelings right now. So I talked to him about the pressures that I had, both in my professional and my work life, and I gave him some samples of some music that I like and what I was looking for. What he came up with was great. It really fit the mood. It really fit the feelings that I was going through. And I thought, no, that's not good. It was too mellow. It just wasn't upbeat like the message I wanted to give. So there was a lesson for me. I had to separate my feelings from my work. You see, the message that I wanted to convey was positive, but my feelings, if you overlay them on top of it, it would suppress the message. So even though I'm teaching people about leadership, I'm also learning about leadership. Let's talk about relationships. I want to start with a very public relationship, and that is between Russia and the US. Recently, Russian cosmonauts and American astronauts returned from a successful mission to the International Space Station. When they returned to Earth, they had a joint press conference in their respective countries, and everyone is smiling, and by all accounts, it's a huge success. Meanwhile, we get reports that a US plane is flying through international airspace, and a Russian plane intercepts it and escorts it some distance. Why is that? Why can't we get along here on Earth, but we can get along in space? There's something about space that makes everyone have an agreeable disposition. I don't think Russian people are our enemies. I've worked with people who have Russian heritage. Not once have I ever walked through a common area in my office and a Russian coworker intercepted me and escorted me to the restroom to ensure that I would not invade the airspace that is in their work area. It's never happened. Maybe we should send our political leaders to space to have diplomatic talks. You know, if you examine relationships that are successful, those who are involved might say that their relationships have chemistry, or they've had chemistry from the beginning, great chemistry. If that's the case, I'd like to explore how we can establish or create chemistry with someone that we don't know. I like to call it organic chemistry. It's simple. We're just asking a series of open-ended questions. Here's an example. So you meet someone that you like or you're interested in, and you would naturally ask, what do you like to do? What are you interested in? And so the person might say, I like movies. And you would respond, me too. You're affirming or confirming what they like. So that's a sort of chemistry by finding some common ground, things that you're both interested in. So if they like movies, you might then ask, what type of movie? If they say I like comedies, again, me too. Well, who's your favorite comedian? Kevin Hart. Really? Me too. Now, let's close the deal. Do you know he has a new movie? Yeah, I know. I heard about it. Have you seen it? No. Would you like to go and see it? Now, that's not the best example, but the model works. You're pushing the person to your desired end by asking these questions, and you're learning about the person along the way. What's critical here is what we learn about someone initially, or that they like, is what we will have to continue doing to keep them. You know, I'd like to define the relationship between Russia and the US. Or I can use an analogy to explain how they are. So on the one hand, the relationship is complex, or it has complexities. And the analogy I would use is that of a watch. People who like watches or they collect watches, they look at the complications that the watch has. There are a lot of mechanical parts. The watch can do more than just tell time. It can tell you down to the minutes. It can tell you the day of the week, calendars, all these things. It has alarms. So some people actually covet complications in a watch or a complicated watch. Conversely, scientists like simple equations or simple formulas. They don't want a whole whiteboard full of equations to memorize. They want it reduced to something very simple, like E equals mc squared. I'm not a scientist, but that's the example. So if we tie in the Russian-US relationship, a part of that relationship is complex, and a part of it is elegant. When they're in space, it's very simple, things work out, it's elegant. Here on Earth, it's complex, or full of complexities. Let's go back to the example of our watch, with all of its complexities. Let's say we just wanted that watch to tell time, and nothing else. We didn't want alarms and, you know, all the fancy things on that watch. We can take out the complexities, but the watch wouldn't tell time because it needed all the complexities, all of the mechanisms and the gears in order for it to also tell time. You know, the same is true for some relationships. If that unique combination comes together, or people come together, they would form complexities. Removing those complexities doesn't always make that relationship successful, whether it be personal or professional. I know this firsthand. Because I once worked with someone some years ago, and we both thought we were the best. I thought I was the best, and they thought they were the best. But when you put us together, best and best didn't make better. It made worse. We had no success. Even when we tried to pull out the complexities in our work relationship. This is why interviewing is so important, and asking behavioral questions during interview. This is why in personal relationships, it's important to date or court someone. There's a difference. I think dating, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, you can date multiple people, but courting someone is a bit more formal. It's like, it's the next step. Maybe it's more commitment, or you're more serious, or you're trying to figure it out together with that person versus just hanging out with someone. And again, we will go on to ask, what is your expectation? That might determine if you would court someone or how long you would court them. Now, in that example, the latter could happen if we think we found what we're looking for, but instead we see what we're looking for. There's a difference. If I told you I was at some latitude and longitude, I'm physically standing there at that place. Now, I don't have to be at that place to see that place. There's your difference. That's why I think it's better to find something in this context than to see it. And sometimes the lens that we're looking through can become skewed for a number of reasons. Sometimes our eyes get tired. But I would prefer to find the place so that I can experience it, so that all my senses can experience it. But we don't actually experience it in every case. Some relationships may have gone bad because, again, we saw what we're looking for instead of finding it, and we didn't ask what each other's expectations were. So we started the relationship, instead of being like this and moving forward together, we started the relationship like this and we moved forward. Because we can see each other as we're moving forward, we think we're together, but we're not. In fact, the more you move forward, the farther you move apart. Well, how do we mitigate or eliminate this problem? Well, at the onset of the relationship, we can ask each other what our expectations are. You know, if one maybe wants to get married soon and one doesn't want to get married at all, we should know right away today instead of several years down the road. What makes a relationship complex? Well, it could be that our experience in a previous relationship, whether it be personal or employment, would feed or fuel our expectation I need feedback. Random person, does this make sense to you?
Yes.
Alright, so that's the end of the second video. Be sure to tune into the third video, which marks the end of this first phase where I'm trying to figure out all the video stuff. I even think I'll do a world premiere for it. So we look forward to seeing that and seeing you. Until next time, I'm Abrams, you're awesome. Thank you for leading in the first person.